All right, today we're digging into a major global report that lays out a blueprint for the future of work. It gets into some of the biggest economic shifts happening right now. Everything from AI to the green transition. And it asks one really critical question. Are we ready? So let's just jump right in. The core question this report asks, well, it affects every single one of us. The world is changing at lightning speed. But are our jobs, and maybe even more importantly, our skills, ready for whatever is coming next? To even begin to answer that, we've got to understand the massive forces that are reshaping our entire economy. The report calls it a perfect storm of change. And it's not some far off forecast, it's happening right now. So, this new economy is being fueled by four huge global trends that are all converging at once. First, you've got the climate transition, which is pushing us towards green energy. Then there's massive technological disruption, think AI, that's changing how we all work. On top of that, we're seeing these huge demographic shifts around the world. And finally, geopolitical fragmentation, which is just a fancy way of saying countries are rethinking their global partnerships, is basically redrawing the entire economic map. And just to see that demographic point in action, take a look at this. The projections for 2035 are pretty wild. Sub-Saharan Africa's workforce is set to explode by almost a third, creating this huge pool of young talent. Meanwhile, the European Union's workforce is actually going to shrink, which could create some serious labor shortages. You've got two completely opposite trends happening at the exact same time. So, when you throw all of these changes into the mix, what do you get? Well, the report calls it the great job churn. And we're not talking about a small shift here. This is one of the biggest transformations of the labor market in history. Now, when you hear a term like job churn, it's easy to think it just means, job losses. But it's actually much bigger than that. It's more like a massive reshuffling of the deck. It's all about reallocating workers from industries that are declining to the new ones that are emerging, especially in the green economy. And here, you can see what that reshuffling actually looks like in the real world. There's a really clear pivot away from roles in things like fossil fuels and old-school manufacturing, and a huge move towards jobs in renewable energy, electric vehicle tech, and building infrastructure that can withstand climate change. This is fundamentally changing what we even think of as a modern job. But here's the catch. There's a big one. This whole massive, incredible transition has hit a major roadblock, a bottleneck that, honestly, could derail the entire process. And that is the critical skills gap. To give you a sense of just how big this problem is, just look at this number, 1.2 million. And get this, that's the estimated skills gap right now in India's solar energy sector alone. Just one sector in one country. Let that sink in. And yeah, this isn't just an issue in one place. It is a global problem. The report estimates that a staggering 60% of the entire workforce today is going to need some kind of reskilling by 2030. Think about that for a second. More than half of us will need to learn brand new skills just to stay relevant. And look, this isn't some abstract problem for the future. It's a real barrier that's happening right now on the ground. In Kenya, for example, the electric vehicle market is absolutely taking off, but they've hit a wall because they have a major shortage of trained specialists who can handle the batteries, the charging infrastructure, and the local manufacturing. Okay, so how do we fix this? What's the solution? Well, the report argues we need a fundamental shift in our thinking. Instead of focusing almost entirely on technology and finance, we need to start focusing on people. And that's really the heart of what it calls the people-centered blueprint. So what does a people-centered transition actually mean? Well, it's not just about creating safety nets for workers. It's a whole strategy that sees workers as the primary drivers, the engine of this new economy. It's about treating our skills, our knowledge, our ability to adapt as the single most valuable asset we have. And the report lays out a pretty clear three-part blueprint to make this happen. First, a smart strategy. You have to bake jobs and skills goals directly into national policies. Second, you have to create future-ready skills with new education models and training programs. And third, and this is the big one, you need catalytic investment to actually fund the whole thing. And here's the crucial takeaway. This isn't a cost, it's an investment. The report calls it a triple dividend, because when you invest in people, it pays off in three massive ways at once. It boosts the economy with higher productivity, it strengthens society with more cohesion, and it actually helps the climate by speeding up progress. Now, this blueprint sounds great, right? But it's not going to happen on its own. It requires a fundamental shift in how we actually invest in our future. Now, this is fascinating. This chart completely flips the script on how we think about risk. It shows that the countries facing the biggest labor market risks, like unemployment and skills gaps, often have the highest potential to create new green jobs. So, in other words, the biggest challenges are actually the biggest opportunities. But that opportunity faces a huge problem, and this chart highlights it perfectly. There's a massive investment gap. High-income countries spend a bigger piece of their economic pie on education than low-income countries do, the very places that you could argue need it the most. If we want this transition to be fair and effective, we have to close this gap. And this quote, man, it really gets to the heart of the matter. We have to stop looking at education and training as just another expense on a spreadsheet. We have to start seeing it for what it is, a strategic investment in our collective future. It's about investing in the engine of the new economy, and that engine is people. So, when you boil it all down, this report makes one thing incredibly clear. A blueprint for a fair transition actually exists. The plan is on the table. So the final question it leaves us all with is pretty simple. Are we going to invest in it,